Seeing here is the glow of light around the object from scattering sunlight. And the question is, what is producing that light? What if NASA just got caught hiding the most terrifying discovery of our time? In late 2025, something out there broke the laws of physics right before our eyes. The interstellar object 3I-ATLAS, once dismissed as a harmless comet, began moving in ways no natural body ever could. But as scientists demanded answers, NASA's data streams went silent. The public was told nothing while private reports leaked whispers of something impossible. Because whatever 3I-ATLAS is, it isn't following the rules of the universe. The silence before the break. In the early weeks of October 2025, everything around 3I-ATLAS seemed quiet. It had been catalogued, studied, and filed away as just another comet, an icy fragment wandering through the void. NASA's official updates were calm and predictable, the kind of technical language used when nothing unusual was expected. But then, almost overnight, that calm began to fracture. Deep space monitors tracking 3I-ATLAS started to record small inconsistencies in its path. The deviations were microscopic. At first, tiny, almost meaningless shifts in trajectory that could have easily been blamed on software noise. Yet, those same inconsistencies repeated every single day, growing slightly stronger each time. When private astronomers compared their readings, they noticed something NASA hadn't mentioned. The object wasn't slowing down as it approached the Sun. It was accelerating. That discovery should have been front-page news. Every known comet slowed as it nears the Sun due to drag and energy loss. But 3I-ATLAS was doing the opposite. It was speeding up, pushing harder against gravity as though propelled by some unseen force. When amateur observatories began asking questions, NASA's live telemetry feed abruptly went offline. The page that once streamed data to the public was replaced with a generic maintenance notice. The discovery that changed everything. By mid-October, whispers had already spread through private astronomy circles. A few independent researchers began releasing screenshots of data from their instruments' graphs that didn't lie. The speed of the 3I-ATLAS had jumped by nearly 200% in less than 48 hours. The readings were consistent across continents, recorded from Chile to Hawaii to South Africa. It wasn't just accelerating. It was doing so in a way that ignored the gravitational pull of the Sun entirely. At first, many thought it was a glitch or a miscalculation caused by radiation or sensor drift. But when the European Southern Observatory verified the same acceleration from their high-resolution spectrographs, panic began to set in. 3I-ATLAS was moving as if gravity didn't apply to it. For an object the size of a small mountain to gain speed, that rapidly meant one of two things. Either it was producing its own propulsion, or the laws of physics had just failed in real time. NASA's official channels went quiet again. Their social feeds, usually filled with daily mission updates, suddenly stopped mentioning the comet altogether. Yet leaked memos began circulating online, one of which hinted at anomalous readings inconsistent with gravitational model. The memo was quickly deleted, but screenshots remain. A few insiders claimed that during internal meetings, even NASA engineers admitted they had no model to explain what was happening. When the James Webb Space Telescope attempted to re-image the object, something strange occurred. The system locked onto its coordinates, but instead of a clear capture, it recorded distortions like the target was bending light around itself. If true, that would mean 3I-ATLAS wasn't just moving, it was manipulating the space around it. The data NASA tried to erase. As November approached, fragments of deleted information began resurfacing. Amateur astronomers and data archivists noticed something odd. Portions of NASA's Near-Earth Object Database had quietly vanished. Entries related to 3I-ATLAS were missing timestamps, trajectory updates, and most suspiciously, the energy flux readings that described how much light and heat the object was emitting. It wasn't an accident. Someone had deliberately purged the record. A handful of researchers who had cached the original data compared it to what was now listed publicly, and the differences were impossible to ignore. The earlier versions showed a clear spike in reflectivity, a surge that suggested an external energy source had activated within the object. But in the revised files, that spike was flattened out, rewritten as a measurement anomaly. NASA claimed the data had been corrupted by solar interference. Yet, the timestamps corresponded with no known solar flare or radio event. Meanwhile, the European Space Agency released their own independent observation logs, and they matched the original, not the edited version. Their measurements confirmed a rapid increase in both velocity and luminosity, indicating 3I-ATLAS was emitting more energy than it was receiving. That's a physical impossibility for a non-powered object. Then came the biggest discovery of all. A group of astrophysics students analyzing the public feed from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter noticed something strange in a frame captured on October 29. For a brief moment, the camera recorded a sharp burst of light originating from the coordinates of 3I-ATLAS, an explosion of infrared energy that lasted less than 2 seconds. NASA released no statement, no image, no acknowledgement. But when that same light burst was picked up by ground-based telescopes in Japan and Chile seconds later, it confirmed what many already suspected. The acceleration no one could explain. By the first week of October, the numbers made no sense anymore. 3I-ATLAS was now traveling at speeds that broke every known celestial model. Its acceleration pattern wasn't random. It followed a steady curve as though being guided by intent, not physics. The most unsettling part was that it wasn't gaining speed near gravitational wells like the Sun or Jupiter. It was accelerating in open space where gravity should have had almost no influence at all. When NASA was pressed for answers, their public response was brief, a vague statement blaming solar radiation pressure and volatile gas release. But that theory fell apart instantly. For a comet to accelerate that much from outgassing, it would have to be shedding mass at catastrophic levels visible through massive plumes. Yet none was seen. The James Webb Space Telescope, the Hubble, and every other high-resolution observer saw nothing resembling the kind of jets that could produce such force. The object wasn't losing mass. It was gaining speed without changing shape. The data from multiple observatories, including the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope, revealed an eerie pattern. The acceleration came in pulses, brief bursts that occurred every 11 hours, precisely aligned with its rotation. Each burst sent the object surging forward slightly faster, as if something within it was firing in sequence. To engineers studying the data, it looked more like an engine cycle than a natural phenomenon. Behind the scenes, leaked emails from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory revealed panic. One scientist described the readings as non-gravitational propulsion of unknown mechanism. Another mentioned a term that caught attention: controlled acceleration. That phrase never appeared in public reports. The light that shouldn't exist. When the first enhanced images of 3I-ATLAS were processed by private observatories, something in them defied comprehension. It wasn't just the motion anymore. It was the light. Normally, comets reflect sunlight. Their glow comes from ice and dust scattering radiation. But 3I-ATLAS emitted light in patterns too organized, too rhythmic to be natural. Every few hours, its brightness surged and dimmed with mathematical precision. It was as if the object was pulsing. At first, astronomers assumed it was rotating irregularly, causing sunlight to flash off certain angle. But when the James Webb team ran a spectral analysis, the truth became impossible to ignore. The light coming from 3I-ATLAS was not a simple reflection. It contained emission lines that corresponded to energy frequencies no comet should produce. In simpler terms, it was generating light from within, like a reactor or an active source of power buried beneath its surface. Even more disturbing was the wavelength itself. It wasn't consistent with any known chemical reaction, nor did it match standard thermal radiation from solar heating. The spectrum was narrow and stable, similar to a laser pulse rather than a diffuse glow. Several researchers privately noted that this was the same type of pattern produced by controlled energy discharge, something mechanical, not natural. NASA's response to the discovery was silence. The official archive of Webb's 3I-ATLAS data was marked as restricted due to calibration review, but leaks began circulating in a scientific forum. Frames showing the comet's coma flickering like a strobe, releasing light bursts that lined up perfectly with its rotational period. The odds of such symmetry being random were virtually zero. The distortion in space. As October turned, telescopes around the world began to detect something even stranger than light. Space itself was warping around 3I-ATLAS. When radio observatories compared timing signals from pulsars passing behind it, the delay wasn't normal. It was as if light from distant stars bent slightly more than gravity alone could explain. The object was distorting the fabric of space, creating a measurable gravitational lensing effect far beyond what its size or mass should allow. For a moment, astronomers thought they had discovered a black hole fragment or a dense exotic core hidden beneath the icy crust. But further analysis destroyed that theory. Its density, while unusual, was nowhere near high enough to cause such distortion. That left only one other possibility. Some kind of active field around the object was manipulating gravity itself. NASA's Deep Space Network logged the anomalies first, then promptly sealed the data under internal review. Yet, international stations still tracking the comet confirmed what was happening. As 3I-ATLAS accelerated, the distortion deepened. It wasn't bending space randomly. It was shaping it as though creating a tunnel or field to reduce drag. In simpler terms, it was engineering its own path through the solar system. When independent physicists began running simulations based on the available readings, they found something extraordinary. The distortion pattern around the object mirrored theoretical models for gravity wave propulsion. A concept long considered impossible but often discussed in speculative propulsion research. It's the same principle behind the warp bubble theories that could allow faster-than-light travel without breaking relativity. The interference nobody expected. The first sign that 3I-ATLAS was affecting more than just space itself came from Earth. In early February 2025, communication arrays across multiple countries began experiencing synchronized blackouts. It started with small, brief signal drops in deep space tracking antennas, static bursts across NASA's Deep Space Network, and sudden frequency interference at observatories that happened to be pointed in the same general direction as 3I-ATLAS. At first, engineers thought it was solar activity or cosmic interference, but the sun was unusually quiet that week, and the disturbances were far too localized. Each disruption lasted between 7 and 9 minutes and repeated every 11 hours. The same rotation period observed from 3I-ATLAS's light pulses. It was an exact match. In Chile, a research facility monitoring microwave background radiation reported a strange hum cutting through their recordings. A rhythmic pulse invisible to the naked ear, but perfectly aligned with the object's signal. Soon after, communications from satellites orbiting near Mars began to lag. Data packets were delayed. Transmissions echoed and telemetry lines filled with repeating binary strings that made no sense. Within days, something even more bizarre happened. The Hubble Space Telescope temporarily lost guidance lock, not from a mechanical issue, but from an unexplained distortion in its sensor array. The logs described unexpected interference originating from off-axis coordinates coinciding with 3I-ATLAS trajectory. When the system rebooted, the star tracker displayed faint but repeating patterns. Thanks for watching another episode. While you are still here, make sure to click the video on your screen for more quality content.